These days, Jack Kerouac's On the Road is associated with many things. It's a book of Genesis for beatniks and hipsters, a love poem to America, a seminal work for minority culture, a travel book, a drug novel, and a young adult novel, among other things. It's a novel about the Jazz Age, when the Jazz Age wasn't Kentucky and princesses in $1,000 dresses, but when poor urbanites popped Benzedrine and danced to mad rhythms well into the evening. My only hope for this lecture is that people get to understand On the Road for what it really is, and not to denounce it nor idealize it for no reason. First thing you must realize is that On the Road isn't a fiction, at least in the traditional sense. Rather, it's a fabulation of real events, originally written in a mad 3-week writing spree. Sal Paradise, Kerouac's alter ego, is a young novelist who befriends an ex-con named Dean Moriarty, who parties in the vibrant and chaotic haunts of America. He goes to San Francisco and Denver, where he hangs out with Carlo Marx, also known as Allen Ginsberg, as well as Moriarty's friend Mary Lou. Along the way, Dean enters into relationships with Camille and Inez, both of whom get childs off of him. We get a brief love story between Sal and Terry, a Mexican migrant worker in California, but as he runs out of money and the travel bug endures, he heads back east. Still though, Dean makes little commitment to stay together with any girl, and he and Sal continue roaming around America. They stay with Old Bull Lee, also known as William S. Burroughs in Louisiana as well, but we sense that Dean's manner is getting more and more unstable. Eventually, he and Sal go to Mexico, where all their partying will culminate into sickness, destruction, and separation. They will only meet once more in New York City. Just as a quick aside, Kerouac speculated himself that this book had become the beginning of the end for him. This book brought beatnik culture to the fore in the same way that hipster culture is alive today, and he had a lot of trouble dealing with the newfound popularity. In fact, he felt so pressured by the attention that he partly blamed it for his alcoholism, and although he wrote other notable works such as Big Sur and the Dharma Bums, he was never quite as vital after On the Road rose to popularity. On the Road is a work that famed writer Truman Capote once dubbed typing, but I don't think that does justice to the stylistic elements it popularized at the time. Along with Kerouac, Henry Miller and to some extent J.D. Salinger were mapping out the poetics of youth and jazz in a time when people sought to discover the underbelly of America. Dean Moriarty is such an unforgettable figure, but not just because of his brazen actions. There's a certain rhythm to his voice that inspires Sal and the novel's readers. It was the pulsating rhythm of contemporary experimental jazz. American literature has also always had a knack for innovation, but for too long I think the purpose of many writers was to discover, state, and conclude things about the nature of America or Americans. Henry James, to use a general example, sought to explain the social conventions of Europe and America. Kerouac, like the youth he represents, sought curiosity itself, sought to go into the unknown. Literature was escape and not just a subsequent discovery. That's not to say this wasn't a quintessentially American novel. You have several patterns seen in other American works: a movement west, Ulyssian themes of traveling, escaping, romanticizing, drug using, searching for an elusive father figure. Overall, Sal represents a collective wish to search for new symbols among an American landscape right after World War II. Of course, the baby boom would bring upon vast suburban landscapes and a new ideal of domestic living, but immediately after the war, there was nothing, and Sal and Dean tried to reinvent it for themselves. Sal takes a vow of poverty inside a Catholic church, perhaps suggesting a move towards more Buddhist ideals. Sal also wishes he was black, and falls in love with a Mexican woman, and has Quebecois roots, suggesting that Kerouac wants to change what the ideal American experience entails. It's no longer a homogeneous myth. I think this novel is still misrepresented today as a complete idealization of the times. At its core, this novel foresees the descent into madness of two hopeful people through systematic drug abuse, alcoholism, and virulent misogyny. But what we should take from it is the genuine search for truth through boundless curiosity that gives its novel its vigor. On the Road shows that fiction can be used to embellish true events, but it also shows how art in general must be the first line of attack when society seems culturally void. On the Road is a love letter and a cautionary tale, but Kerouac became, for better or for worse, the sacrificial force that reinvigorated youthful idealism in American culture at its time.